Have you ever met someone who did not say much, did not show off, but the moment they walked into a room, you suddenly felt more relaxed and safe, without even knowing why? Have you ever noticed that some genuinely kind people, even when they go through storms, always seem to meet the right help at the right time, as if life itself is gently taking care of them? Welcome back to the channel, my friend. Thank you for spending this time here again. Today we are going to talk about something that sounds mysterious, but you have actually felt it again and again: the invisible magnetic field of a kind heart, and the way one simple thought of compassion can quietly rewrite the path of your destiny. The text behind today's video says something very direct. Truly kind people carry a special energy. It is not about being naive, not about pretending to be nice, not about forcing a smile. It is a deeper, cleaner kindness that grows out of understanding cause and effect, responsibility, and the shared fragility of all living beings. When that kind of kindness wakes up in your heart, it does not just make you a good person. It changes your body, your relationships, and the invisible way life responds to you. So in this long script, I want to sit with you and do 3 things. First, we will look at what this magnetic field of kindness really is in everyday life, not in abstract terms. Second, we will walk through 3 stories of ordinary people who discover, in very different ways, how one compassionate decision can turn an entire life in a new direction. Third, we will talk about how you, right where you are, can begin to cultivate this energy in a way that is wise, grounded, and real, not soft and easily hurt. You do not need any special background to follow this. You just need a human heart that has felt both pain and the desire to be better, which means you are already qualified. Let us start with something simple. Think about the last time someone was genuinely kind to you when they did not need to be. Maybe a stranger held a door and really saw you, instead of just doing it mechanically. Maybe a friend listened to you for an hour without checking their phone. Maybe a coworker shielded you from blame when they could have saved themselves by throwing you under the bus. You can probably still feel that warmth even now. Now think about the last time someone treated you with coldness, contempt, or calculation. The body remembers that too. The stomach tightens, the chest closes, the mind becomes defensive. You do not need spiritual vocabulary to feel this difference. Your nervous system is the antenna. That is the first clue. A kind heart changes the atmosphere around it, not with magic tricks, but in very concrete ways: tone of voice, timing, patience, presence. Over time, this creates a pattern. You could call it character. You could call it karma. You could call it a magnetic field. The name does not matter. What matters is that it is real. Let me tell you the first story. Her name is Emily. She works as a nurse in a busy city hospital. If you have ever been in that kind of place, you know it is not a soft world. There are bright lights, loud machines, anxious families, endless forms, and staff who are stretched thin. People come in with fear in their eyes. Sometimes they leave with relief, sometimes with grief. In the middle of all that, it is very easy for medical workers to become numb, to see patients as cases rather than as human beings. Emily promised herself early on that she would fight that numbness, even though she knew it would cost her more energy. She was not perfect. She got tired, irritated, and overwhelmed like anyone else. But she carried a quiet vow whenever she could. She would treat each person in front of her as if they were her own family. This showed up in small ways. When she entered a room, she would make eye contact first, before looking at the chart. When she had to give an injection, She would explain in simple words what she was doing, instead of just pushing the needle in. When families were panicking, she would put a hand on a shoulder and say, "I know this is scary. Let us breathe together for a moment." Her colleagues sometimes teased her. "You are too soft. You will burn out." They said, "You care too much." She would smile and answer, "Caring is the only part of this job that I chose. The rest is just procedure." There was one night that marked her deeply. A little boy was brought in after a car accident, badly injured, half-conscious, crying for his mother. The staff rushed around him with cables and monitors. Emily was assigned to his bedside. In the chaos, she could feel his terror like a physical weight. She remembered something she had read once: when people are in extreme fear, what they need most is not explanations, but a sense that they are not alone. So she leaned close and said softly, over and over, "I am here. You are not alone. We are helping you. You are not alone." He gripped her hand with all his small remaining strength. The doctors did what they needed to do. Hours later, he was stable, taken to intensive care. Emily went home and cried in the shower, not from sadness alone, but from the intensity of having opened her heart fully in that moment. Years passed. She kept working like this. She was not a saint. She had bad days. There were nights when she was so exhausted that she snapped at colleagues and went home guilty. But overall, her habit was clear. Whenever she had enough space to choose, she chose compassion. Then came a season when her own life collapsed. Her mother was diagnosed with a serious illness. At almost the same time, her apartment building was scheduled for demolition, forcing her to find a new place under pressure. The hospital was understaffed. Shifts were long. She felt squeezed from every direction. It was the kind of time when people often ask, "Why me?" and start to harden. During one particularly dark week, her mother needed a series of expensive tests very quickly. The waiting list was long. The doctor in charge, overworked and distant, seemed to treat her mother as just another file. Emily felt the familiar fear of being helpless in the face of a big system. Then something unexpected happened. A senior specialist, one she had assisted many times in emergency situations, heard her name when looking at the schedule. He walked into the room, looked at her, and said, "Is this your mother?" When she nodded, he immediately rearranged some things, made calls, and moved her mother up on the list. He did this without being asked. Later he said simply, "You have taken care of so many people for years. It is our turn to take care of you." But this was just the visible part. Throughout those difficult months, small helps kept appearing. A colleague volunteered to trade shifts so she could attend a key appointment. A neighbor offered her a temporary room when she had to move out quickly. An old friend she had once helped in a crisis sent her money unasked. It was as if all the kindness she had poured out into the world had been stored somewhere. And now, under pressure, it was returning to her through many different doors. From a spiritual perspective, you could say that her years of compassionate action had built up a strong field of merit. From a psychological perspective, you could say that her way of treating people had created deep goodwill. From a poetic perspective, you could say that her kindness had been traveling in circles and had finally come home. Whatever language you choose, the pattern is clear. A heart that radiates genuine care does not walk through storms empty-handed. Now, it is important to say something here. This does not mean that if you are kind, life will always save your loved ones. Always make sure you get what you want. Always protect you from every loss. That would be a childish interpretation. Even the kindest people get sick, lose people they love, and face injustice. The difference is not whether they face suffering, but how suffering meets them. In Emily's case, her kindness did not erase her mother's illness, but it brought people, resources, and a level of protection that a cold, isolated life might not have attracted. And maybe even more importantly, it gave her an inner strength. She did not feel alone. She could look into her own heart and know that she had lived, and was living, in alignment with something higher than fear. That is the first aspect of the magnetic field of kindness. It draws support, sometimes in obvious ways, sometimes quietly. It turns other hearts into mirrors that reflect your own goodness back to you when you need it most. Let us move now to the second story, which looks at kindness from another angle. What happens when a gentle person feels used and begins to question whether kindness is even worth it? His name is Mark. In school, teachers liked him because he was well behaved. At work, managers liked him because he never caused trouble. Friends liked him because he was always there to help them move, to listen to their problems, to lend money. On the surface, he was the classic nice guy. But as he got into his 30s, a dark frustration grew inside him. He began to feel that his kindness was a curse. He would stay late to help colleagues, but when promotions were given, more aggressive people were chosen. He would lend money to friends who begged him in tears, only to see them posting vacation photos while ignoring his messages. He would be understanding, unflexible in relationships. Yet again and again, partners would leave, saying they did not feel much respect. One night, after drinking alone, he sent a message to a close friend, "I have been kind for so many years, and what did I get? Maybe in this world, if you are too soft, you just get trampled." The friend did not reply immediately. The next day, when they met, instead of comforting him with cliches, the friend said calmly, "Maybe the problem is not your kindness. Maybe the problem is that your kindness never learned to stand up straight." At first, Mark was offended. He snapped, "So now you are saying it is my fault people treat me badly?" The friend shook his head. "I am saying that kindness without clarity can turn into self-betrayal. That is not compassion. That is fear dressed up as goodness." Those words haunted him. He started to watch his own behavior more closely. He realized that many of his kind actions were actually driven by fear of conflict, fear of rejection, fear of being called selfish. When colleagues dumped extra work on him, he did not say yes out of pure generosity. He said yes because the thought of saying no filled him with anxiety. When friends asked for favors that stretched him beyond his limits, he complied because he could not bear the idea of them being disappointed. It hit him like a small earthquake. A lot of what he had called kindness was not rooted in compassion, but in weakness. That realization hurt, but it was also the beginning of a new kind of kindness. He started to make small, scary changes. The next time a colleague tried to hand him a task that clearly belonged to them, he took a breath and said, "I am at capacity right now. I will help you think about it, but I cannot take it on." His heart pounded, but he did not die. The colleague frowned, adjusted, and moved on. The sky did not fall. When a friend who had never repaid a previous loan asked for more money, he replied, "I care about you, but I am not able to lend right now." It would not be responsible for either of us. The friend got angry, said he had changed. That hurt, but at the same time, something inside him stood taller. He realized that any friendship that collapses the moment you stop being endlessly useful is not built on real respect. As he developed this new spine, something else interesting happened. His kindness became more powerful. Before, he had always felt a low level of resentment, even when he helped, because part of him felt forced. Now, when he chose to help, he knew he really meant it. There was no hidden bitterness. That sincerity changed the flavor of his actions. People around him picked up on this invisible shift. Some who were only there to take advantage slowly drifted away. Others, who had always respected him but perhaps taken him for granted, began to rely on him in a different way, asking his opinion, not just his labor. New friends appeared who valued his softness plus his strength. From a spiritual angle, you could say that his magnetic field sharpened. Before, his kindness was like a warm but shapeless fog. It did not have edges. People could walk through it, use it, and leave without noticing. Now, his kindness was like a clear, warm fire inside a lantern. It gave light and warmth, but there was also a frame. You could not just grab it with bare hands. Compassion in deep teachings is never separate from wisdom. Wisdom sees cause and effect clearly. If I say yes when I mean no, I am teaching others to disrespect my boundaries, and I am also secretly injuring my own heart. That inner injury will later show up as depression, bitterness, or sudden explosions of anger. So a wise, kind person says no when needed, not because they lack compassion, but because they understand that real compassion includes themselves. This is the second aspect of the magnetic field of kindness. When you combine a soft heart with a strong spine, your energy becomes very stable. People feel that they can trust you because you are not acting out of cowardice or flattery. You do not help out of compulsion. You help out of choice. That stability itself is powerful. Let us turn now to the third story, which looks at kindness not as something you have or you do, but as a practice that can transform deep patterns of anger and despair. The main character here is a young woman named Sarah. In her early 20s, she was the opposite of what people would call kind. She had grown up in a chaotic home with many fights. Her parents loved her in their way, but they also unloaded a lot of their pain onto her. She learned early to defend herself with sharp words and a tough image. By the time she reached university, she had a reputation for being fierce. She would argue with professors, mock classmates, and post brutal comments online about people she did not like. She told herself she was just being honest, not fake like others. But if you looked into her heart at 3 in the morning, you would see emptiness and a very old sadness. Inside, she did not actually want to be this way, but she did not know another option. One day, she attended a public talk by a meditation teacher. She did not go because she was interested. She went because a friend begged her and she had nothing else to do that evening. She sat in the back row, arms crossed, ready to be bored. The teacher did not start with big theories. He asked a very simple question: when you are harsh to others, how do you feel in your own body afterward? The room was quiet. Then he asked, when you are sincerely kind, even in a tiny way, how do you feel? Sarah rolled her eyes inside, but when she heard those questions, memories surfaced uninvited. The face of a classmate she had publicly humiliated with a joke. The way her own chest had felt heavy afterwards, even though everyone laughed. The time she had helped a lost child find their parents in a supermarket, almost by accident. And the strange lightness that had lingered for hours afterward. The teacher went on, we talk about karma and destiny as if they are mysterious forces far away, but you can feel them in your body right now. Every thought, every word is like a small stone dropped into the pond of your heart. If you drop stones of cruelty day after day, the water becomes muddy. If you drop stones of kindness, Slowly it clears. That inner pond is your life. It will reflect back at you in dreams, in moods, in the way people respond to you. Something in his words slipped past her defenses. It was not that she instantly became a better person, but a seed of curiosity was planted. What if my toughness is not protecting me as much as I think? What if it is actually poisoning my own pond? After the talk, the teacher suggested a very simple experiment, not just for her, but for everyone present. Choose 1 week, he said, and in that week, practice one small act of deliberate kindness each day. It should be something you would not normally do. Then notice how you feel. Sarah decided to try, partly out of skepticism, partly because she was tired of herself. The first day, she forced herself to say something genuinely encouraging to a classmate she usually ignored. It felt awkward. The classmate's eyes lit up. Sarah felt a strange flutter in her chest, like a locked door opening a crack. The second day, she saw an old man carrying heavy bags up the stairs of the subway station. Normally, she would have walked past, thinking, "Not my problem." That day, she hesitated, then turned around, offered to help, and walked with him step by step. He thanked her, blessing her softly. She shrugged it off, but the warmth of that short encounter followed her home. Some days she failed completely. She snapped at people and only remembered her experiment hours later. Instead of giving up, she used those failures as mirrors. What triggered me? What am I afraid of? Why is it so hard to be gentle? After a few weeks, she noticed something subtle. The world around her looked slightly different, not because everyone had become nicer, but because her eyes had changed. She began to see, but behind the faces she had judged as stupid, fake, or annoying, there was suffering very similar to her own. A classmate she had always teased for being quiet turned out to be caring for a sick parent. A teacher she thought was cold turned out to be going through a divorce. This new perception did not erase her anger overnight, but it gave her a new option. Instead of using sharp words as her only tool, she began to try curiosity and kindness as well. Years later, when people met her, they described her as warm but honest. They felt that she saw them clearly, flaws and all, but that she stood on their side rather than against them. Her life was not problem-minus free, but she no longer felt like the world was one big enemy. She had stepped out of the prison of her own hostility. From a spiritual point of view, what she did was very profound. She used intentional acts of kindness as a form of practice to reshape her mind. Every time she chose compassion when anger was easier, she weakened the old pattern and strengthened a new one. These choices accumulated. They became her new default. That is how destiny shifts, not through one dramatic moment, but through thousands of tiny decisions. This is the third aspect of the magnetic field of kindness. It transforms you from the inside out. At first, your acts of compassion may feel forced, like someone learning to play an instrument. Over time, they become natural, and your entire presence changes. People will say, "You have a calming vibe," without knowing the years of inner work that created it. Now, after these 3 stories, let us step back and look at the bigger picture. What does it really mean to say that kind people carry a powerful magnetic field? It means that kindness changes your body. When you genuinely wish others well, your nervous system relaxes, your breathing deepens, your face softens, your immune system works better. You are less stuck in constant fight or flight. A body that spends more time in calm states will naturally age differently, heal differently, and respond to stress differently. It means that kindness changes your relationships. People feel safe around you. They know you will not weaponize their vulnerability. So they open up, trust you, recommend you, stand up for you when you are not in the room. Opportunities flow through people. People are drawn to those whose energy feels like a refuge rather than a battlefield. It means that kindness changes your karma. Every time you choose compassion over cruelty, you plant a seed. You may not see the sprout tomorrow, but the seed is there. At some future moment, when you need help, that seed may ripen as a stranger's support, a near miss instead of a direct hit, an inner voice that keeps you from making a disastrous choice. It also means that kindness changes your inner sky. Even when life is difficult, you can look up, metaphorically, and see more space. You do not drown so easily in self-pity, because you have trained yourself to look beyond your own pain. You have felt, again and again, the strange paradox: when you genuinely care for others, your own heart often suffers less. Of course, we must be honest. Kindness is not a guarantee that everyone will treat you well. There will still be people who misunderstand, use, or hurt you. That the difference is this: when you have a stable field of kindness, their behavior does not define you. You know who you are. You know what you stand for. Their darkness does not pull you in so easily. Kindness is not about winning every outer battle. It is about not losing the inner one. So, how can you begin, concretely, to cultivate this magnetic field of kindness in your own life without becoming naive or burned out? You can start with your thoughts. Before words and actions, there are thoughts. When you notice yourself judging someone harshly, you can pause and ask, what if I knew their full story? Would I still be this harsh? You do not have to force yourself to like everyone, but you can practice the simple thought. Just like me, this person wants to be happy and hates to suffer. That thought alone, repeated, begins to soften your field. You can continue with your words. Every day, choose one opportunity to speak kindly where you would normally be silent or critical. It might be appreciating someone's effort. It might be apologizing instead of defending. Sometimes it might be choosing not to say the cruel thing you are tempted to say. Even if you are right, those small decisions shape your energy. You can extend to your actions. Look around your everyday environment. Who is invisible here? The cleaner, the security guard, the cafeteria worker, the intern, the child in the corner. Offer them respect in practical ways: eye contact, a greeting, a thank you, a bit of help. You might think, this is too small to matter, but there is no such thing as a small act in the language of the heart. You can include yourself. That might sound strange in a video about kindness, but it is essential. If you are only compassionate outward, while constantly abusing yourself with inner criticism and exhaustion, your field will be unstable. Kindness toward yourself does not mean endless indulgence. It means resting when you are tired, forgiving yourself for being human, seeking help when you are overwhelmed, and not expecting perfection. You can connect your kindness with a larger intention. For example, before doing something good, you can think silently, may this help not only this person, but also slowly increase the compassion in this world. This may sound grand, but it shifts your heart from me doing something for you to we. Together, rising. That intention gives your actions a deeper flavor. If you keep doing these things, day after day, something quiet but profound will happen. Without you announcing it, people will start to tell you, I feel calm around you. I feel I can be myself with you. You somehow make heavy things feel lighter. They are describing your magnetic field. And yes, over time, you may also notice that your luck changes. You may still face challenges, but you will see more often that just when you are about to fall, a hand appears. That hand might be human, might be a piece of information, might be a sudden inner clarity. You will start to sense that the universe is not simply indifferent, and that your own heart's quality is part of the conversation. Before we close, I want to speak directly to the part of you that might be listening with a tired smile and thinking, I used to be kind. I got hurt. I do not know if I dare to open my heart again. If that is you, I want you to know that I hear you. Many gentle people have scars. They tried to be warm in a cold world and ended up shivering. Some of them decided to become cold themselves as a shield. Maybe you did that too. But let me ask you gently, when you hardened your heart, did you actually suffer less? Most people, if they are honest, will say no. They suffered differently. They were not betrayed as often, perhaps, but they also did not feel deep joy very often. Life became safer and smaller at the same time. What if there is a third way? Not the old and guarded kindness that gets exploited, and not the frozen armor that keeps you numb, but a grounded compassion, a kindness that sees clearly, sets boundaries, and still chooses to care. This third way is not built in a day. It is built the way we have been talking about, through small daily choices, through honesty about your own motives, through remembering that every being you meet is fighting a battle you cannot see. If you feel ready, even just a little, I invite you to take today as a new starting point, not a dramatic declaration, but a quiet inner vow. Something like, from today, I will try to let at least one genuinely compassionate thought guide my actions each day. I will allow myself to be kind, and I will also learn to protect that kindness wisely. If you want to, share that vow in the comments in your own words, or share a story of a time when someone's kindness saved you, or a time when your own small act of compassion changed something in an unexpected way. Your story might be exactly what another tired heart needs to hear tonight. If this long video script spoke to you, if it made you feel seen or gave you a little more courage to be kind in a world that sometimes feels sharp, please remember to subscribe to the channel, tap the like button, and leave a comment. That is how this platform knows to show these deeper conversations about awakening, wisdom, cause and effect, compassion, practice, and destiny to more people. If you feel moved to support this space more deeply, you can also consider joining as a member. That support allows us to keep turning short texts into long, story-filled scripts that you can walk with, think with, and slowly live into. Thank you for staying until the end. May your heart stay soft without breaking. May your kindness be wise as well as warm. May every compassionate thought you nurture become a quiet light that guides your own steps and gently brightens the path for others. Life gets noisy. Work, stress, expectations. Sometimes we lose touch with the quiet part of ourselves. Bracelet isn't just an accessory. It's a small reminder that you deserve peace. You deserve moments of stillness. You deserve to hold on to your inner balance. If one of these bracelets speaks to your heart, you'll find the purchase link in the description below. And even more auctions available on our channel's shop page. Pick home the one that feels right.